Good morning, you guys. This is Friday morning. I hope yesterday went well with computer hardware and storage. I'm sure it did. I'm positive you guys all got your homework turned in yesterday also. So today what we're going to go through is software. This is only part 2 of 5 parts of this chapter. So by the time we're done today, you'll be able to calculate the cost of buying software and also be able to calculate the cost of developing software. This is very easy. If you are interested in a career in technology, this is one place where you can do fairly well, is developing software. Vocabulary wise, software, these are the things that deal with technology that you cannot see. This is the system, the program that makes your computers run. And in there, or with software, you can have a site license. Depending on how many licenses you own will determine the price. So for example, the Microsoft programs, now they're coming 2 to 3 licenses per box. You know, you're right around $70, $80 for the very, very cheap ones. Remember, the site license is just what gives you access to use the software on your machine, or machines if you have multiple. Operating systems, these manage the computer hardware. They run more in the background. Usually you don't see too much of what happens with that, with the exception of when you turn on the computer, when you go in to start other programs. You also have your application software, and that manages your data. Application software would be anything from Word, Excel, PowerPoint, Photoshop, InDesign, etc. Whereas operating, Windows 7, that's an operating system. Freeware. These are completely, absolutely free. You don't have to pay for them. But you have shareware. Same idea. It starts out free. You have a trial period, and then eventually you'll have to pay for it. Remember, when you're buying your software, when you're buying your new computers, upgrading, things like that, you have to have 2 types of software, your operating system and your application software. Remember, you do not own the software, you only own the license to use it. You always have to have 1 license for every machine. It doesn't matter if you have 10 machines, that means you have to have 10 licenses. Usually businesses, they have multiple machines. Sometimes companies will give you a discount when you do buy their software. Remember though, freeware is no cost. You have your shareware, which is no cost, but it's usually for a trial period only. With those trial periods, remember, it can be anything from the number of days, number of weeks, number of hours, number of times you open the program, to maybe you get a whole year's free. Now, it depends on the software that you're using for shareware. Usually what happens when people are creating these new softwares, they'll start it out as freeware for quite a while, a couple years or so, until it really takes off. After that, then it moves into the shareware to try to get people hooked. Then finally you have to pay for it. When you're buying, remember, the cost includes your licensing, your installation, any sort of training you might have to do. If you're in the business world, those older members definitely want more training than the younger ones. Younger people like your age and even my age are more apt just to jump on there, mess around with it, see how it works. Whereas people who are older have a tendency not to do that. My mom's a good example. She gets on a computer, she freaks out with any little thing that happens that she wasn't expecting. So she would be an example that needs more training. That way she's more comfortable with the machine and with the new software. You do have to pay for upgrades. Sometimes you have to upgrade your system in order to use that specific software. Then you also have to convert your data. A lot of programs anymore are doing a very nice job of being able to open the old data and then give you the option to save it in the new version. And you see that more and more, but do realize that there's times that that does not happen. So buying, this isn't too hard. Make sure you read through these. Once again, I want to remind you, same as yesterday, pause the video, read through it, do your math, then come back on to double check your answers. Remember, this program only allows me 15 minutes with you, and then you're cut loose. I can make 2 videos, but trust me, it's been pretty good just to get one completely done here. So here we go. We're going to upgrade from 3.5 to 4.0. Most businesses would probably wait with that upgrade until they're a couple more behind than just a 0.5 version. But you have 43 computer systems. Per cost or per machine is going to be $97.80. Well, you could get a 50 workstation upgrade for $3,800. So you want to know, well, how much is he going to save? So easy way to do it. 9780 times 43 machines is $4,205.04. Whereas you could buy the 50 station license for $3,800. Subtract that then, and you know his savings is going to be $405.40. Easy enough with these. Another example in case you need it. Here we have 74 machines. Each machine for a word processor is $129.59. You also need a spreadsheet software on each one for $94.89. Or you could buy the 100 station license for $15,310, and you also get more for your money with that. Personally, I definitely go with more for my money if I was going to use everything, but it depends on your business. So here I would suggest $129.59 plus the $94.89. Figure out what it is per station. In this case, it's $224.48. Take that times 74 because you have 74 stations, which means it's going to be $16,611.52. Well, obviously, just with that number, we know it's going to be better to go ahead and purchase the suite of Office applications for $15,310. Subtract your $16,611.52. That minus your $15,310. That gives you a savings of $1,301.52. Another example, same thing. In this case, though, we have 36 hours to convert the data. This is for accounting systems. You do see it more often in accounting systems that you have to convert. 36 hours times $80 an hour. Plus you have training of 16 hours times 125. Add in those 2 costs plus your installation costs, cost of your software. In this case, you are spending $165,560 just to upgrade this software. Insane amounts, but it happens. So developing. Some businesses, they do need their own programs, and you get paid very well for developing these programs. So what they'll do, they'll either hire somebody from an outside firm or they have their own. It depends on the business. Gaming, anything that they're trying to create better technology, they more than likely will have their own programmers in the building. It ends up being cheaper for them. They can use them all the time. The programs, remember, these are lines of instructions. They're also known as lines of code. If you're one of those computer people, you'll know it as lines of code. Others will know it as instructions. A good programmer will produce anywhere from 20 to 40 fully tested and finished lines of code in a day. I know that doesn't sound like a whole lot. However, when you think about it, you have to type in every little thing. And when you type it in, one little typo makes the difference. And it might be a bracket that's in the wrong place. You might have put a break in that should not have been in there. Those are just little examples. Every time you type one line of code, you have to go in and test it. Once that line's perfect, then you move on to the next line. Once that line's perfect, then you move to the next one. So on and so forth. And it's one of those, it's a very tedious process. If you have a lot of patience, you love working on the computer, that's a good job. You do make really good money with that. But it's not for everybody. If you have the opportunity to try out programming, go for it. MIT has a really good, very basic programming program, for lack of better words, set up. It's one of those, though, they have it very, very watered down. But it is a very tough thing to do here. As for figuring out the cost for these, it's not too bad. Make sure you really read, know how many people you have, know how many days and hours that they've worked on this. In this case, we're working on 3,316 lines of code. 3 programmers were paid $47 an hour. They had about 28 lines of finished code in an 8-hour day. And that's 28 lines each, which is pretty darn good. So to figure these, once again, pause it, make sure you're figuring things correctly, then restart it. So you have 3 programmers, 28 lines of code. Multiply those out. Then you have 84 finished lines of code in a day. Then you have to figure out, well, how many days did it take me? Or take the programmers. So you take your 3,360 divided by your 84 lines of finished code that's done every day. Ends up being 40 days that they worked on this. Personally, I couldn't sit there that long doing this. Well, now you have to figure out, well, how many hours did they end up working? Well, 3 of them working an 8-hour day, that's 24 hours in a day then, 3 times 8. Well, 24 hours times 40 days that they worked on it, 960 hours that it took to complete this project. So your 960 hours times $47 an hour ends up being $45,120 just for this one program. Once again, like I said, you can make really good money from it, but you have to be patient. So another example, we have a program that's going to require 2,900 lines of code, putting 2 programmers to work on it. They average 25 lines of finished code a day, paid $29 an hour. How many days will this project take, and what will the final cost be? So once again, here we go. You're going to do 25 times 2, 25 lines of code a day times 2 programmers. That's doing 50 lines of code in a day. 2,900 total lines, divide the 50 per day, equals 58 days that they worked on it. Well then, you got to figure it out. How much does it cost? Well, $29 an hour times 2, because you have 2 people that you're paying, is $58. 58 days times $58 times an 8-hour day means there's $26,912 wrapped into this project. Finally, one more example. Easy stuff. This one's 15,744 lines of code, taking 96 days to make it. How many lines of code did each programmer average per day? So you're going to do 15,744 divide by the 96, divide by 4. Each programmer did approximately 41 lines of code in a day, which is really good. That doesn't happen too often. So assignment today is page 129. Remember, 127, 128, and now 129 is all due next Thursday. I will be back on Monday morning, ideally, unless I get snowed in somewhere. Enjoy your weekend, guys, and I look forward to hearing how the test went and how these 2 sections in the videos went for you guys. Enjoy your weekend. See you Monday.